Well, that's awesome. Now we can actually show some customers using these hard-coded values, but honestly, that's not what we wanted. We wanted to use the customers from our REST API, right? So we have to figure out how do we get data from a REST API. Now we're going to have to first split this up a bit. So I'm going to look at some of the structural ideas inside the folder structure that Angular wants us to use, right? So we're going to have, like, first of all, figure out how should we place our code, because this is starting to be a larger and larger application. So we have to know how should we structure our folders. Let's look at that. So I'm jumping into the Angular page right here, the Angular style guide. And if you want to find that, you pretty much just go to Angular.io, you go into docs right here, you go into techniques right here, and there's a style guide down here. Now in that one, if you scroll all the way down here, there's so much you can pick from here. There's so many good ideas when doing whatever you want to do, changing names, working with end-to-end structure, everything is in here. Those are the recommendations for Angular when you build an Angular application. They're right here. So what I want to look at right now is the overall structural guidelines right here. And if I scroll down, this is how the Angular team encourages you to actually put in your code, right? So first of all, they're saying we need some kind of core folder. Let's do that later. But we also need, for their case, they made a hero application and we made a customers app. So in our case, it's going to be called, we are going to have a customers root folder. But right now I called it customer. Let's go and fix that. Then you can also try to rename. So I right click the guy over here and I say refactor, rename, like this. I put in customers instead of customer. I do refactor, and then it'll actually pop up down here and ask, are you sure you want to refactor this? Let me just zoom down here. So it's just saying all of this will change if you do it. And I'll say do the refactor. And Gizumi, we now just rename this to customers instead of customer. I know that's a minor thing, but as you start developing more and more code, this is very important. So let's move back. What else does it say? Well, it also expects that your model is actually inside a shared folder, and it's also called hero.model.ts. Another mistake from my side. So let's make a new folder right here, new directory, call it shared, like this, because this is shared among all the different components or whatever you need them for inside the customer, right? So let's just rename the customer model right here as well. So I'll do, let me just zoom again. I'll do a right click on my customer, I'll do a refactor, I'll do a rename, and I'll say customer.model.ts. Again, you can read now in the name that this is the model for a customer, right? Now again, it asks me, are you sure you want to refactor this? And I will say yes. Actually, it didn't ask me. Why didn't you ask me? Okay, it seemed to just work. Let me just move it into the shared folder, and it asks, do you want to do this, and move the references? And I just said yes. Let's see if everything's still running. Jump into this guy right here. Here we have a customer. He knows that he's now in the shared folder and that he's the customer model. So everything seems to have refactored as it should. Now that's cool, because actually now we've also prepared ourselves. Inside the shared folder, we're going to have our service. Yay! So next lesson we can create our service. I want to just show you one more thing, because right now we have our hero. That should be actually inside the hero folder instead of, we're also going to have a list of heroes. Or in our case, we're going to here show a single customer and here show a list of customers, right? So let's create a customer folder under the customers. I'll make a new directory again. And again, I know this is something you can do later, but I thought I just wanted to show you guys that this is actually a real problem. And I'll drag these four guys, which are the single customer, and I'll just move the references as well. And there we go. Now it'll hopefully rebuild and say this is a-okay, but let's see what happens. There we go. Everything is up and running again. Now I actually use the folder structure that Angular wants me to use. Now there's a lot more you can see in here, because there's also shared, there's another domain object right here, villains, etc., etc. So I think we'll just start moving out from this project folder right here, but I want you guys to use that. Use the project folder from Angular. At least that's one way to go. You can pick others, but that's the one I encourage you to use. See you in the next lesson.